As a young person, I find it challenging to find access to jobs and training for the future. So, can you tell us how you are going to make sure young people have access to information about training?
In the past, we had connections, and it's interesting to note because with the jobs and skills budget that has been devolved down to the Greater Manchester Combined Authority, we could actually set up our own version of that here in Greater Manchester. But more importantly, and I think we should be looking towards the future, which all of you are. We should make sure that you have the opportunities that you need to build the green economy of the future, to be part of the green revolution. So you can stay in Greater Manchester and be confident that you're going to have a high-tech, high-paying job on your doorstep. And that's what you need to be trained for. And that's part of a green agenda that the Mayor's office can lead on and say, this is what I want Greater Manchester to look like. Sorry. I think you were going to come in there, weren't you?
Just to add on, so can you tell us what the plan is?
Okay. So with Greater Manchester based connections, again, it links into that community hub where you've got all of those leaders working together. And you've actually got teachers and head teachers actually saying, well, these are jobs that are going to be available over the next 5-10 years. How do we get you as young adults into those jobs? What do you need in order to get those jobs? But leaving it until you leave school is something that we need to reverse. I remember when I was at school, I had careers advice when I was 14, and it went right the way through till my GCSEs, and then I stayed and did my A-levels because of that advice. And that advice continued right the way through till I was 18. So, and I know that has that been absent, it's been cut back now, hasn't it? So that really does need to go back in. It's something we can do again in here in Greater Manchester with the skills and jobs funding.
Do you know, it's such an important thing that we are not just forgetting young people, and that's something I've seen an awful lot. That it was, school was sort of there were different options as we got to school leaving age for a long time, and then it was sort of children and young people seem to have just been forgotten about. And there's minimum wage applies, either doesn't apply or is very different. There's no access to things. Apprenticeships, while can be a good scheme, but on a lot of them they're so poorly paid that you are then forced to be at home to be able to access them. And I just think overall it has been forgotten, and very much a bit of a lost generation, which is interesting when we're hearing about how much there's now suddenly a focus on children's mental health in the pandemic. And I keep thinking no one seems to have cared for the last 10 years. So where's this sudden concern come from? I think the issue is working to build that into part of schooling, and to make sure that schools become really good information hubs about where people go on to, because there's an awful lot of focus I found when I was at school, and I'm finding with my son, particularly who is 14, so he's year 10. It's already a discussion around, you're streamed into this one, so you can choose your A-levels, but your GCSEs, but you're streamed here, so you need to do the baccalaureate subjects, and you need to do the baccalaureate subjects so that we get the grades, and then you go on to here to do, to sixth form to do your A-levels, and you're there because you're then going to go to university. And if you're very much streaming that way, it just feels very geared to that, and that's where everyone seems to be in a bit of a push. But that isn't ideal, and that isn't right for everyone. And I think there needs to be a sort of recognition that actually people need to be helped and supported to go on to different careers and to understand where they are, and to also understand that there's a whole new area of careers that didn't exist, and I sort of look at now, and I'm hopefully not too ancient compared to the when you all look at me, but I just have no idea what some people are talking about with what jobs they want to go on and do and what is available as an option that just didn't exist when I was at school. And I think that that's where we're missing an opportunity, in the fact that we have stayed very rigid with education and with going on after education. And if you aren't going into a profession or a traditional role, I think children and young people are very abandoned and not helped. So I think that that's it, is we need to, comes back to the same point that I sort of started with the homelessness. It's about engaging and finding out where is the information missing and what do we need to do about that. And that to me seems to be around anything more vocational rather than academic. And those new and emerging roles that people my age just don't understand.
So again, back to when I first stood to be mayor, I said I would create something called which I call the UCAS style system for apprenticeships. And the idea behind that was, for young people who are on the university route, the UCAS system gives people really clear information about what courses there are, what grades you need to get, all the different universities. I think it's always been the case that young people who want work-related opportunity don't get the same clarity of information in terms of what might be available, and therefore don't know necessarily what courses to take beyond school to help them move towards a good work-related opportunity. So I have created that system now. It's called GMAX, the Greater Manchester Apprenticeships and Careers Service. It's only about a year old, a bit over than a year old, and working with Diane Medal, who led the youth task force that I created, we've been refreshing it recently and improving it. But GMAX is my answer to your question. It's meant to be a single portal for young people to go. And it's not just actually for apprenticeships or jobs. I'm very, very kind of committed to giving people work shadowing opportunity. So I think from your perspective, where you are, you might want to be the mayor of Greater Manchester, or you might want to be, somebody senior in law or finance. We've got amazing jobs in the city now that weren't there when I was your age growing up here. We've got some amazing organizations, and we've got to open up those places to you now so you can kind of see those worlds and get a feel for those worlds. And it's why I'm asking people who are in senior positions across Greater Manchester to offer work shadowing via the GMAX system, so that if you're interested in, let's say, finding out more about the media or working in law, that there is somebody who's a prominent lawyer in the city who will say, look, I offer 4 work shadowing days a year, and you could apply for one of those days. That's how I want GMAX to develop, so that you don't need. I didn't have connected parents in politics when I was growing up, because my mum and dad weren't politicians or councillors or anything like that. I was the strange one in the family that was interested in politics. No one else was interested in it, but I didn't know how to open a door into politics. How would I know? I didn't have anyone. And I think in life, where life is unfair, is people with connected parents often get the best opportunities coming out of school and college and university, because they just got those doors opened for them. I want people without connections to have the ability to access those worlds that you could absolutely get into if somebody just opened the door for you. So I'm determined to do that. We call it Meet Your Future. So it's a work shadowing scheme for Greater Manchester. And I want to increase the number of people who are offering those days of work shadowing, so that you all on this call can say, right, that's my way into that world that I want to be a part of for my career. So GMAX is my answer to your question.